This is Brent with Lykins Motorsports, and you've probably seen this view before. This is my 352, and you're doing an intake swap, and I think you're going to be excited as much as I am to see what the next step is. The last step was just an intake manifold change. We had a Blue Thunder medium riser 2x4 intake on there, and it made exactly the same horsepower as the engine did with the ported police interceptor intake. And I just want to try one other variable, or not a variable, I guess. Try another instance of this particular variable before I go changing the internals of the engine. And I do have another cam and some other parts here for this engine, but I wanted to make sure that the intake was not the cork. The last time the Blue Thunder medium riser 2x4 intake, it lowered the peak by I think about 600 RPM, which shows us that, you know, the port length and the cross-sectional area does play a role in how the engine functions. And I just want to make sure I'm getting the most bang for my buck before I go changing the internals. So I do have another intake here, and I'll get to that in a minute. And we're going to try something pretty, I guess I would say, new and kind of outside the box a little bit. But we're going to give that a shot. The intake did need cut, and that doesn't surprise me in the least bit, because these heads have been whacked really bad and the block has been cut. So any intake manifold that I stick on here will need to be fit. What I was able to do was, instead of using a 60 thousandths intake manifold gasket, I reached out to SCE gaskets. Ryan Hunter is the owner there. He's an FE guy. Also, his brother Mark is an FE guy, so I'm familiar with these guys, and they do a lot of FE stuff. And I asked Ryan if he would send me a set of 30 thousandths thick low riser and medium riser intake manifold gaskets. So he was happy to do so, and I appreciate his help. It's going to get me a little bit further on this build, and there's just not a lot of 30 thousandths intake gaskets available on the market. Cometic has some, but you can't get Cometic stuff right now, and they don't stock inventory. Everything's made to suit, and then you have to wait for a month or so. So kudos to Ryan for getting these gaskets out very quickly to me, and they're going to fit the bill, and I'll show you those in a minute. But we're going to change the intake manifold, and this one's going to be a two-piecer, so you may already know what it's going to be. But we're going to get the first part on here and mocked up, and I'll show you that here in a second. All right, so I had Ryan make some low riser gaskets and some medium riser gaskets for me. And this is a low riser gasket. You can tell it's really tall. Low risers are pretty tall port. Medium risers are a shorter port, and I'm going to grab a medium riser gasket and hold it up so you can see the difference. But look at the thickness of the tab down here and how much sealing surface you have down here. Now, these are low riser heads, so keep that in mind. Okay, this is a medium riser gasket. You can tell that the roof line is the same. The sides are matched, but there's a big overhang of the gasket over the port. And depending on the intake manifold, either one of these gaskets can work, but it depends on how the intake manifold's made. Let me see if I can show you the lip. Yeah, you can see how the gasket sticks up way past the floor of this low riser port. So this is the intake manifold adapter. This is what I'm going to be using as the foundation for the intake system. This is made by FE Power, if you're familiar with the J. Brown. This is an older piece. It is serial number 006. And Joe Crane has had this stashed away for several years. It has been ported to match a medium riser gasket on the flange side, and a 4-barrel Cleveland intake on this side. Really nice piece. What it will allow me to do is this tray comes out, and it'll make it a lot easier for me to change camshafts and everything. A Cleveland intake is dry, so if you grease your gaskets really good, the intake comes off pretty quick and pretty easy, and then you just pop your valley pan off, and you can get to the lifters and you can change cams without having to pull the valve train off. So pretty cool. All right, I'm gonna show you how the gaskets interface now. Okay, so this is a medium riser gasket that I have on here, and it looks like Joe ported this just a little bit taller than a medium riser gasket. We got some overhang. And this is the low riser gasket. So the roofs match the gasket, and we have plenty of sealing surface through here. Normally, if you use a medium riser intake on a low riser cylinder head, you might have some trouble getting this to seal because not all the intakes have all this meat right here. So you lose some sealing surface, but we're gonna have plenty of sealing surface here. So this low riser gasket is gonna be the one that I'm gonna use. Okay, we've got my gaskets glued on now, and check the port alignment with the intake adapter on. Now I'm gonna run my beads for the end rails and put a little bit of silicone around the ports and get this thing bolted down. All right, so we got the adapter bolted on tight, and now I'm gonna put the push rods and rocker arms on. All right, so we got our push rods and rocker arms installed, and I went ahead and took the valley pan off, or the cover, just so you could see what's going on here. It's got a nice O-ring seal for that and for the rear breather hole. Make it really easy to change cams. When I had the rocker arms and the push rods out, you can't really get the lifters all the way up out of the bores, but you can pull them up enough to where, you know, they're clear of the cam lobes if you wanted to change a cam. So just makes it really really quick and easy. All right, so I'm gonna put that back on, and put the rockers on and re-ran the valves, made sure the lash is right, distributor's in where it's supposed to go, and we're gonna mock up our Cleveland intake gaskets next. Okay, and here we are with the Cleveland gaskets glued on. I'll silicone those to the adapter, and then I'll use some white lithium grease on the gasket side, this side, so that the manifold will be easy to take off if I need to do that. So these are just Mr. Gasket 4-barrel Cleveland gaskets, and everything's matching up good so far. All right, let's set the intake on, or well, let's grease up the gaskets first and then set the intake on. All right, so here's the finished product. This is a Y-end tunnel ram for the 351 Cleveland. These are my 600 Hollies from the last test, and this took me, well, I gotta zoom out to really get this sucker in the picture. I don't know, what do you think it'll do? Do you think it'll make more horsepower or the same as last time? Leave your guess in the comment section. And we'll have a dyno in the next couple weeks. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Again, this is Brent, Lykins Motorsports. Thanks for subscribing. Hit that like button, share it with your friends. Have a good weekend.